All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. We're talking Detroit Lions. Now, before we get into a couple of their draft picks, I want to make one thing very clear. Brad Holmes is getting a lot of backlash, surprisingly, in my opinion, because of his aggressive trade-ups pretty much throughout the entire draft, especially in the beginning. The way I see it is this. First off, you got some absolute dogs. Terrion Arnold in the first round, pick 24. You trade up a couple of selections with Dallas, and you take maybe the best cornerback in the entire draft. I know we're not going to know until 4 years or whatever from now, but Terrion Arnold, we'll talk about him later on in the video. He might be the best cornerback in the draft. The Detroit Lions showed us a lot last season, folks. They won 12 football games. They won the division. They won 2 playoff games. They literally almost made the Super Bowl. So we know that Brad Holmes, Dan Campbell, Jared Goff, the whole Lions organization, the roster, we know that they are fully capable of getting to the promised land and taking home a Super Bowl. So, in my opinion, you have a team ready to compete that has been competing, and you're still looking really good long term because, once again, Terrion Arnold, we'll talk about their draft, Brian Branch, Jahmyr Gibbs, Sam Laporta, Jack Campbell, etc., etc. You're built to win for a long time, right? And when you have this great roster and you made the conference championship game and you were so freaking close to making the Super Bowl, what are you supposed to do? Play it safe? Like, no, dude, you got to risk it for the biscuit. And so I just love Brad Holmes. I think he's the best GM of the league. He's got decades of scouting experience. Like, I'm going to trust him if he is trading up for these prospects. So, before we get into today's video, if you guys enjoy it, be sure to hit that like button, hit that sub button for daily NFL content. Lions fans, appreciate you guys as always. We post a couple of Lions videos on this channel every single week. So if we try and get this video to 250 likes, that would mean the absolute world to me. So let's talk about Terrion Arnold here. This is a huge move. He had like 5 interceptions last season. He's Bama, Jameson Williams, Brian Branch, Jahmyr Gibbs. They love their Bama football players, rightfully so. It's freaking Alabama. And the Lions last year, like the defensive back room, cornerback room specifically, was a huge pressing need, right? You picked up some nice pieces. You traded for Carlton Davis. You lost Cam Sutton due to all that stuff, and you had to release him. But you did pick up, or you also still have Emmanuel Mosley, but you also did pick up Amik Robertson. So you got a new cornerback room. And all they were truly missing, in my opinion, is a young stud for the next 4 years to be like a true lockdown cornerback one. Now, it might not happen right away. Terrion Arnold, I wouldn't be surprised if he was cornerback one by the end of the season. But that's, Carlton Davis is very freaking good. Carlton Davis is very freaking talented. So it doesn't need to be right away. But guys, I think Terrion Arnold will have a very similar season to Brian Branch, who they acquired in, what was it, the second round last season in the draft. So last year, the Detroit Lions, we know their offense is fully capable. They've had 2 straight seasons of top 5 offenses, right? And we know Ben Johnson. We know they're doing a great job on offense. And also, we'll talk about that at the end of the video. Defensively, specifically, the secondary, the pass defense was not good, and it was not going to get the job done. So the Lions allowed 34 completions thrown at least 20 yards downfield last season. That was tied with the Houston Texans for the second most in the NFL. This is actually, Arnold's selection marks the second time that the Lions have taken a defensive back in the first round this century. The other was Jeff Okudah at number 3 back in 2020. Here is what the Lions passing game coordinator / defensive back coach had to say about Terrion Arnold. He is a physical player. He's a willing participant in the tackle game. You see him play multiple positions. He played outside, he played inside, and he is not afraid. That's the reoccurring theme with all of these new defensive pieces, is that they love the game, they love to hit, and just old school football. It's crazy that even needs to be said, but we know the defensive rules have been changing, or I should say the offensive rules have been changing, and it really punishes the defense. So you see these guys, they're like softly tackling. They don't want to get injured. And I understand it from, players' perspective. But if I'm forming a team, if I'm forming a defense, I want, like, the way I grew up watching football, I want you to rip this dude's head off. Like, I want you to rip his goddamn head off. So Terrion Arnold is a freaking physical dog. And you see it in the highlights, you see it in the film, and you're going to see it day one this upcoming season because he is going to be a starting cornerback for the Detroit Lions. Second round, pick number 61, where Brad Holmes actually wanted to trade up into the early second round to acquire this guy, Ennis Rakestraw Jr., cornerback out of Missouri. Now, once again, you traded for Carlton Davis. You did lose Cam Sutton, but you picked up Terrion Arnold. You've also got Brian Branch, and you picked up Amik Robertson. So I think Rakestraw will have more of a rotational impact, but this is the first time in the common draft era that the Detroit Lions have taken a defensive back with each of their first 2 picks after trading up for Arnold at 24. Now, Detroit's defense last season, this is a horrible statistic, they allowed 28 passing touchdowns. That was the 6th worst in the NFL and marked the 5th straight season they ranked in the bottom 10 in passing touchdowns allowed. Now, Rakestraw allowed only 1 touchdown all last season. However, he was only targeted on 8% of his coverage snaps. Now, another horrible Lions defensive statistic in the defensive back room. The Lions allowed 7.8 yards per pass attempt last season. Terrible. Only the Bengals at 8.1 were worse. Rakestraw allowed 13 completions on 22 attempts this past season when targeted. However, only 5 of those were attempts that were thrown for over 15 yards or more. All right. So more of a rotational piece, in my opinion, because of the trade for Carlton Davis and the addition of Terrion Arnold, and you also have Brian Branch back there. You got Kirby Joseph, you got Melifonwu. I know some people have some concerns with the safety room, and I've been talking about Quandre Diggs, and a lot of Lions fans have been talking about a Quandre Diggs reunion because he was traded during the Bob Quinn, Matt Patricia regime, and it still kind of stings because he went on to thrive with the Seattle Seahawks after that. He made 3 consecutive Pro Bowls during 2020 to the 2022 season, and he's coming off a down year. This offseason, in a salary cap saving move, Seattle had to release both of their starting safeties, and this is a perfect opportunity, in my opinion, for Detroit to go out there and get a veteran safety to pair up with Kirby Joseph and Melifonwu, because Melifonwu's entering his last year. There are some other good safeties out there that Detroit could target. You still got Justin Simmons out there, and then you've got Lions killer Eddie Jackson. As a Packers fan, I'm not a huge Eddie Jackson fan either, but he's familiar with the division, and I think any of those 3 free agent signings, you'll see, even if it's not with Detroit, you'll see them be picked up soon. We saw DJ Chark Jr. get picked up yesterday by the Chargers. We saw Odell get picked up by the Miami Dolphins earlier today. And the reason I'm mentioning that is because I love the Lions defense right now. Marcus Davenport, DJ Reader, all these additions, Carlton Davis, Terrion Arnold, all their draft picks. We'll talk about the later stages of the Lions draft as the week progresses. But I like the look of this new Lions defense, getting super young at the cornerback room. Offensively, they did not pick up a wide receiver, and it's just because you lost Josh Reynolds. So you've got Jameson Williams, you've got Khalif Raymond, you still got Antoine Green, still hopeful on Antoine Green, and then you still have DPJ, but he didn't show us too much last season. I know you've got Jahmyr Gibbs, and I know you've got Sam Laporta, and that's a lethal 2 weapons right there at the running back and tight end spot. But I would still because I think Jameson Williams will have a really good season. I think he's going to have a breakout season, but I would still just like a little bit more insurance, especially considering just like the cornerback room, wide receivers are getting injured left and right. You'll miss 1 week, 2 weeks, God forbid even longer, but the wide receiver room by the end of the season is always, just a little bit banged up. I know everybody's banged up by the end of the year. So the reason I mention that is because you still have Tyler Boyd available in free agency. If I woke up tomorrow and I saw Tyler Boyd be picked up by the Detroit Lions, I'd lose it. Zay Jones still available in free agency. There's some really good wide receiver veterans, and I'm using veteran lightly because I'm talking more guys between 26 and 29 that I think could come on over to Detroit and immediately fill in Josh Reynolds' departure, right? Amon-Ra St. Brown at the end of the day is a freaking stud. I think Jameson Williams is going to be a stud this upcoming season, but I would like a little bit more insurance in the wide receiver depth room. So let me know what you guys are thinking about that moves like that. But at the end of the day, especially those first 2 draft picks that all we had time for in today's video, let me know your thoughts on Terrion Arnold and Ennis Rakestraw Jr. Give me a draft grade for the Detroit Lions down below. Thank you guys for watching. Hit that like button, hit that sub button, and we'll see you soon.